Hello, my friends, and welcome back to English Mindset. I'm Jessica, and I am very happy to see you again today. In this episode, I have a very special story for you. It is a story about one day in the past, a day that is simple, slow, and full of small, meaningful moments. I will speak slowly, and I will use easy sentences so that you can follow me easily. You can listen and understand without feeling rushed. You can also pause the story at any time, repeat each line after me, and imagine the places, the people, and the sounds that I describe. This story is written in the past tense, which means I will tell you about things that already happened. It is a perfect way to practice English if you want to improve your listening skills and your ability to think and speak in the past tense. I will tell you what I did from the early morning until late at night. You will hear about waking up, preparing for the day, walking through the town, working in a factory, returning home, spending time with family, and finally going to bed. Each moment is simple, but each moment is important. It shows how people lived long ago, when life was quiet, work was hard, and family and community were central to daily life. As you listen, try to notice the details. Think about the colors, the smells, the sounds, and the feelings. Imagine the world of the past, without phones, without cars, without electricity. It may seem very different from today, but you will also see that people's lives were full of care, effort, and connection. This is not just a story to enjoy, it is also a story to help you practice English step by step, slowly, clearly, and naturally. So, let's begin. Open your mind, listen carefully, and follow along as I tell you about my day in the past. I woke up early that morning. The first light of the sun touched the thin curtains in my small bedroom. The light was pale, soft, and almost shy. It painted a narrow line across the wooden floor, and I could see dust floating in the sunlight. It was quiet in the room. No cars were outside. No radios or alarms broke the silence. Only the sun told me that the day had begun. I felt the cold air around me, thin and sharp. The winter had not yet gone, and the chill made me breathe out little clouds of white that disappeared quickly into the air. The bed I slept in was narrow and firm. The mattress was hard, and the blanket was thick and old, but it kept me warm through the night. I sat up slowly, feeling the stiffness in my back from sleeping on such a hard surface. I stretched my arms, rubbed my eyes, and listened. The room was still. The only sound was a single bird outside, calling softly, greeting the morning just like me. I walked to the corner of the room where a small wooden table held a ceramic bowl of water. There was no running water in the house. No taps, no hot shower. Only this bowl, filled the night before with water from the well. I dipped my hands in first. The water was icy, and it made me gasp. Then I splashed it on my face. The cold shocked me awake. My skin tingled, my chest rose and fell quickly, and slowly I felt clean and alive. I dried my face with a rough towel and looked at my clothes on the chair. I did not have modern clothes. No jeans, no t-shirts. Those did not exist in my world. I wore a plain white shirt, thick and simple. I pulled it over my head and buttoned it carefully from top to bottom. The fabric was strong, like it was made to last. I put on a pair of brown trousers, sturdy and heavy. On my feet were old boots with worn laces. The leather was cracked from long use, but it protected my feet. My clothes were honest. They were not new or pretty, but they were strong, practical, and ready for work. I opened the small window. The cold air rushed in and touched my face. It smelled of grass, earth, and smoke from faraway chimneys. Outside, the street was quiet. There were no cars, no bicycles, no engines. Only the sound of a horse's hooves on the stones. A wooden cart rolled slowly past my house, full of vegetables. The driver tipped his hat to me, and I lifted my hand in return. It was a simple greeting, a sign that the world was waking up. I walked to the kitchen, which was small and plain. A wooden table stood in the center. There was no fridge, no electric light. Only the morning sun through the window gave light. On the table, there was a loaf of brown bread, a small dish of butter, and a jug of fresh milk. The bread was hard on the outside, dense on the inside. It had been baked yesterday, but it still smelled rich and inviting. The butter was pale and slightly salty. The milk was thick and creamy, straight from the cow. My family was already there. My father sat quietly, his large, rough hands resting on his knees. His eyes showed the years of hard work. My little sister chewed her bread slowly, smiling at me with crumbs on her lips. My mother moved calmly, warming a small pot on the stove and placing the jug of milk carefully on the table. There were no plates for everyone. We shared what we had. I cut a piece of bread with a small knife, spread the butter over the warm center, and took a sip of milk. The taste was simple, real, and satisfying. Breakfast was quiet but warm. We did not speak much at first. The morning light made the room feel peaceful. The cold outside contrasted with the small warmth inside. Each bite of bread, each sip of milk, reminded me that life was simple, but enough. It was enough to start the day. My father told a small story about fixing a fence yesterday. My sister laughed at a little joke my mother made. We shared these small moments, and they made the room feel full, even though the space was small and the furniture was plain. After breakfast, I put on my coat. It was thick and woolen, protecting me from the morning chill. I kissed my mother on the cheek, said goodbye to my father and sister, and stepped outside. The wooden door closed gently behind me. My boots hit the stone street with a steady sound. I did not take a bus. I did not ride a car. I walked. The town woke up slowly around me. A woman swept her front step with a straw broom, making small circles and pushing dust into neat piles. A young boy carried a bucket of water from the well, his small hands gripping the wooden handle tightly. Two old men sat on a bench under a tall tree. They spoke softly, nodding often as if retelling the same stories they had shared for years. The air smelled of fresh bread from the bakery, mixed with the earthy smell of horses and wet stone. These smells were familiar, comforting. They were part of the morning. I walked for 30 minutes through the winding streets. The road curved around houses and narrow lanes. Children ran after a ball made from cloth. Women hung laundry on lines and spoke with each other in cheerful voices. The town was alive in its own gentle way, without the noise of modern life. Every step of my boots echoed softly, a reminder that I was moving through this world on my own 2 feet, connected to the life around me, and ready for the day ahead. By the time I reached the factory, the sun was higher in the sky. The tall chimneys stretched against the pale blue, and smoke rose into the air. The heavy sound of machines filled the yard before I entered. Workers moved with purpose, heads down, shoulders forward. I joined them, ready for the work that awaited. After leaving my house, I walked steadily through the quiet streets. The morning air was cool and fresh. The stone roads were uneven, and each step of my boots echoed softly as I passed small houses and narrow lanes. Smoke rose from chimneys, carrying the smell of cooking fires and baking bread. Children ran past me, playing with simple toys made from cloth and wood. Women carried buckets or baskets, moving with purpose yet chatting softly with neighbors. Every sound, every movement, felt familiar, like the rhythm of the town itself. I walked for about 30 minutes until I reached the edge of town. Ahead of me stood the factory, tall and dark against the pale sky. Smoke rose steadily from the chimneys, and the air smelled heavy with soot and metal. The walls were worn from years of use, and the large doors opened slowly, letting workers enter one by one. Inside, the machines already hummed and clanged. The sound was constant, a steady rhythm that filled every corner. The floor shook slightly under the weight of the largest machines. Dust floated in the air, sticking to clothes and skin, but we were used to it. We had learned to endure. I joined the other workers. Some carried heavy wood, others lifted sheets of metal and placed them carefully on tables. Some pushed carts from one side of the building to another. My task was to carry boxes and move pieces of wood for the saws. The boxes were rough and heavy. As I lifted them, my hands rubbed raw against the coarse wood, turning red with friction. Sweat mixed with dust, forming gray lines along my sleeves. It was hard work, but it was honest work, the kind that provided for my family. The boss walked between us. He wore a stiff coat and a tall hat. In his hand, he carried a long stick that tapped the floor with each step. He did not speak much, but his presence was enough to remind us of the pace we had to maintain. If a man slowed down, the tapping would stop, and the boss would pause nearby, watching carefully. That was enough for the man to find strength again and keep moving. Work did not wait. The machines did not wait. Life did not wait. Hours passed, measured only by the movement of the large clock in the corner. The machines never rested. The same rhythm continued, metal striking metal, belts turning, saws cutting. My back ached, and my arms grew heavy, but I kept going. Every box moved, every piece of wood lifted, every step taken was a small victory. I counted my steps, my movements, telling myself small things: one more box, one more turn, one more walk across the floor. This counting helped the day feel manageable, breaking the long hours into smaller, achievable tasks. At midday, the bell rang. Its sound cut through the noise of the machines, a sharp reminder that it was time for a break. We stopped and rested briefly. I sat on the floor near a wooden crate and opened my small lunch. Inside, there was a piece of bread and a thin slice of cheese. The bread was firm, dense, and hearty. The cheese was strong in flavor, enough to satisfy my hunger. I drank water from a small metal cup. My friend sat beside me, sharing a few words about his children and home life. We spoke softly, because the bell would ring soon, and we had little time for conversation. The break ended quickly. The bell rang again, and we returned to our places. The afternoon felt longer than the morning. Our bodies moved, but every action seemed heavier. Shoulders burned, backs ached, arms felt as if they carried extra weight. I kept a steady pace, repeating the small counting in my head: one more box, one more lift, one more trip across the floor. Slowly, the hours moved forward. Slowly, the day advanced. The factory was a world of constant noise and motion. Machines roared, wood scraped, metal clanged. The air was thick with dust, smoke, and the smell of heated metal. Breathing was difficult at first, but the lungs adjusted. We had learned to endure the harshness, to move with the rhythm of the machines. Around me, men worked silently, focused on their tasks, their faces showing concentration and fatigue. Some had hands rough and scarred from years of labor. Others had young faces, learning the strength needed to survive in this world. Outside, the sunlight moved across the sky. Through small windows high on the walls, thin beams of light cut across the dust-filled air. The factory was hot near the machines, cold in the corners where the shadows fell. Sweat ran down my face and neck, mixing with the dust, making my clothes heavy. But the work was necessary. It was the work that bought bread and milk for my family. It was the work that kept a roof over our heads and fire in the stove. By late afternoon, my arms felt like lead, and my back ached from bending and lifting. My hands were blistered, the skin worn and gray from constant use. Yet the work continued. Each man around me moved with purpose, motivated by need and responsibility. The sound of machines never ceased, and the day passed in a blur of motion. I told myself to keep moving, one box, one step, one task at a time. Finally, the evening bell rang. Its sound was softer than the midday bell, but it brought a sense of relief. We stopped our work, wiped dust from our clothes, and put away the tools. There was no rush to leave. Our bodies were tired, and the day had already taken all the speed from our legs and arms. We walked slowly toward the exit, feeling the transition from work to home. Stepping outside, the air felt cool and fresh. The sky had begun to change color, moving from pale blue to soft gold. Long shadows stretched across the street. Children played in the distance, their laughter rising and falling like birds. Women washed clothes in large buckets, rubbing fabric against boards, and talked to each other. A man sold apples from a wooden cart, the fruit glowing red and green in the soft evening light. The town was alive in a quiet, steady rhythm. I began my walk home. My boots made steady sounds on the stones, each step carrying me closer to warmth and comfort. My clothes were dusty, my hands sore, my body tired. Yet I felt a small sense of pride. The day had been long and hard, but it had been productive. I had moved, lifted, carried, and worked alongside others. I had done my part to provide for my family. The day had demanded effort, and I had given it. The work of the day was heavy, but it was honest, and it mattered. As I walked, I thought about my family. I imagined the warmth of the kitchen, the smell of soup, and the soft light in the windows. I thought about my sister playing quietly, my mother preparing dinner, and my father resting after a long day. Each thought gave me energy to continue, to keep my steps steady and purposeful, even as the evening cooled the air around me. The walk home was slow but steady. My boots hit the stone street with a heavy, familiar sound. The air had cooled, carrying the smell of evening fires and damp earth. The sun was lower now, painting the sky with soft gold and long shadows. The town looked different than in the morning. Children played in the streets, their laughter ringing clearly, bouncing off walls and filling empty spaces. Some ran with balls made from cloth, others chased small wooden carts. The sounds were cheerful, lively, and light. Women worked quietly outside, washing clothes in large wooden buckets. They rubbed the fabric against wooden boards and spoke with each other in calm, bright voices. Their hands moved skillfully, cleaning and folding, caring for their families and their homes. A man sold apples from a small wooden cart. The fruit shone red and green, catching the last light of the sun. People stood in line, carefully counting coins, selecting the best fruit for their dinner. The smell of onions frying, soup simmering, and herbs crushed for cooking floated through the air from open windows. It was the smell of home, simple and real. I walked faster now, thinking of the warmth waiting for me. My clothes were dusty from the factory, my hands were sore, and my back ached. Yet the thought of home, of the fire, the soup, and my family, gave me energy to continue. The streets, quiet earlier in the day, now held life and activity. Each step felt purposeful, leading me toward comfort, rest, and the small pleasures of evening. When I reached my house, smoke rose from the small chimney. That was a good sign. It meant the fire was burning well. I opened the door and felt the warmth immediately. It came from the fire in the fireplace and from the people inside. The room glowed with a soft light, gentle and inviting. The wooden table was ready for dinner. Bowls and spoons were in place. A pot sat near the fire, sending out a simple, honest smell. It was the smell of food made with care, a smell that made the house feel like a home. Dinner was not fancy. It was simple and practical. We had soup, bread, and a few vegetables. The soup was hot, comforting, and tasted of onions, carrots, and a little salt. I broke a piece of bread and dipped it into the soup. The bread soaked up the liquid, becoming soft and flavorful. Each bite filled me with warmth and helped ease the ache in my shoulders and back. My mother moved quietly, ladling soup and filling cups of water. My father spoke about the wagon that broke on the road that morning and how he had helped the driver repair a wheel. My sister told a small story about a cat chasing a feather. We laughed softly, enjoying these small moments after a long day. After dinner, we stayed together in the warm room. There was no television, no radio, no screens. We had only our voices, our hands, and our presence. My father spoke about his childhood, telling us how he ran across fields and jumped over streams. His gestures painted pictures in the air, making the stories vivid. My mother mended shirts with a needle and thread, her fingers moving quickly and skillfully. My sister played quietly with her doll, adjusting its dress and imagining little adventures. My brother polished his boots for the next day, rubbing them with a small cloth until the leather looked smooth and dark again. The fire crackled in the fireplace, whispering softly. The candle on the table burned with a thin, steady flame. The light created soft shadows on the walls, moving gently as the fire flickered. The house calmed down. The noises of the day faded into small, quiet sounds. The warmth of the room, the presence of family, and the glow of the fire made the evening peaceful. Later, we grew sleepy. The fire became a bed of glowing coals. The candle shortened, burning down slowly. We said goodnight to each other, exchanging quiet words of love and care. I walked to my small bedroom. The bed was narrow and firm, the blanket thick and comforting. I lay down and pulled the blanket over my chin. The weight was heavy and reassuring, making my thoughts calm and quiet. Outside, the night was silent. There were no cars, no machines, no bright lights. Only the wind moved through the trees, rustling leaves gently. The house rested on its stones, quiet and steady. I closed my eyes and thought about the day. It had been long and hard. My body ached from work, my hands were rough, and my back was stiff. Yet the day had been real, full of effort, care, and small moments of happiness. It was a day built from work and bread, from family and fire, from walking and simple conversations. I felt a small pride. I had given the day what it demanded. I had worked with my hands, helped my family, and moved through life step by step. The day had given me food, warmth, and the touch of those I loved. These simple things were enough. They were everything. As sleep approached, I let go of my thoughts. I felt the blanket's weight, the quiet of the night, and the gentle rhythm of my breathing. Slowly, my mind relaxed. Slowly, the day became a memory. The night covered the town like a heavy, kind blanket. My family rested, the fire dimmed to coals, and the candle was almost gone. Silence reigned, soft and protective. I lay in my bed, thinking of the small joys, the bread, the soup, the laughter, and the warmth of togetherness. Each small thing had meaning. Each moment had value. Life was not easy, but it was true. It was built from simple, careful acts, each one adding to the comfort and survival of those I loved. Before sleep took me completely, I thought about tomorrow. There would be work again, early rising, and long hours. But I also knew that each day was full of small victories, of moments of care, and of quiet happiness. I felt ready for the next day, even as I rested from the long one. I closed my eyes completely, and sleep took me gently. The night was deep, quiet, and protective, holding the town and its people in a peaceful embrace until the morning light would return. As the night settled over the town, I reflected on the day I had lived. It was not fast or modern. There were no machines, no screens, no constant noise. There was only work, family, and the rhythm of life. The morning began with soft sunlight, the afternoon was full of labor and purpose, and the evening ended with warmth, food, and quiet moments together. Every small action had meaning, from carrying a heavy box to sharing bread with my sister, from walking through the streets to tending the fire at home. Each step built a life that was simple, honest, and full of care. This story shows that even ordinary days can hold beauty and importance. Life may be slow and difficult, but it is also rich with experiences that shape us, connect us to others, and teach us patience and resilience. The work we do, the people we love, and the moments we share create a sense of purpose and belonging. In the past, life was harder in many ways, but it was also real, tactile, and full of small joys that we often overlook today. For you, my friends, this story is more than history or imagination. It is a chance to practice English. You can listen slowly, repeat after me, and imagine the sights, sounds, and feelings of the day. You can practice the past tense naturally, understand simple sentences, and build confidence in speaking and listening. Learning English, like living a day in the past, takes time, attention, and patience. Step by step, moment by moment, you move forward. Thank you for listening to English Mindset. I hope this story helped you feel the rhythm of English, see the beauty in simple life, and practice your language in a calm, meaningful way. Remember, each day is a chance to learn, to care, and to grow. Until next time, keep practicing, keep imagining, and keep believing in yourself.